Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Hashimoto's Nutrition RX, where we dive deep into the science, the strategy, and the real life solutions that help you feel better, live well, and take back your health with Hashimoto's. If you have been dealing with stubborn symptoms like fatigue, bloating, hair loss, weight gain, or just feeling inflamed all the time, this episode is for you because today we're talking about something that's probably sitting right in your kitchen cabinet: spices. But we're not just talking about flavor. We're talking about function. Spices like turmeric, cumin, ginger, and garlic have been shown in research to help reduce systemic inflammation, support gut health, and even influence hormone balance and thyroid function. And when you have Hashimoto's, those things make a lot of sense. So, to help us unpack the evidence based power of spices, I'm joined by Rachel Beller, a nationally recognized dietitian, bestseller author of Spice Rack, and the founder of Beller Nutrition. You have probably seen her on Good Morning America, CNN, Dr. Oz show, or the Rachel Ray show. She has helped thousands of women create realistic, powerful changes in their weight, cancer risk, and inflammation through food. And what I love most is that her philosophy overlaps beautifully with what we do here, focusing on fiber, flavor, and gut health as the foundation of healing. You will learn why gut health and inflammation are the key players in Hashimoto's, how to use spices to support your microbiome and hormones, and why simple shifts, not major overhauls, are the most important, powerful strategy. So grab your tea, a notebook, or your favorite walk outside, and let's dive into this spicy, evidence based episode. Rachel, welcome.
So great to be here. Really, so excited.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to have another registered dietitian and nationally recognized expert in this field on this podcast. Rachel, I have followed you and your work for years. And what I love most is how you make nutrition feel doable, not overwhelming. You have helped thousands of women, like I said, take control of their weight and long term health. And I know our Hashimoto's community is going to walk away from this episode feeling empowered. But before we get started, let's start from the beginning. Can you share what brought you to specialize specifically in weight loss and cancer risk reduction? And why do you think it's so important that women have a strategic and science backed plan around these goals?
Yeah, so for me, it all started at the beginning of my career. About 20 years ago, I randomly took a research job I had no interest in. I just needed to expand beyond working at a hospital. So took a position, a temporary position. It was a study that looked at the role of a nutritional intervention to reduce the risk of breast cancer recurrence. Long story short, I ended up from that temporary job, I ended up staying for 10 years because I fell in love with the ability to empower women with a strategy that they felt that they could own, literally own it and get it on autopilot. Because with research, you need consistency. Because with nutrition, it's all about a cumulative effect over time in order to get the most out of it. It's a pattern. We needed to study that pattern. So I learned how to connect with these women in a very vulnerable state, newly diagnosed breast cancer,
Mhm.
and convey to them the importance of nutrition, the consistency, the role that weight management plays in the prevention of recurrence and reduced risk. And that experience led me to continue on that path after the research. Research had great results, but
Mm.
to continue to empower women to follow that path. I personally got involved in the connection between weight and cancer risk reduction. On a personal note, when I was late teens, actually, struggled with my own weight management
Mhm.
and was able to identify that when I change how I think about what I choose to put in my body, that it makes a difference in how I feel physically. So that empowered me to trust a system and a strategy. Then my father was diagnosed with cancer, and my family and I were at a loss to find proper support. So that experience, it was like a light bulb that went on saying, look, weight management is something that's very important. You need a strategy. When someone's diagnosed with cancer, they need proper handheld support to manage. And I thought that it would be great to connect the dots between the two. And the job that I took just so happened to do all that. And I was able to really enjoy working with these women. And that's what I continued to do. I opened up Beller Nutritional Institute and I specialize in weight management and breast cancer risk reduction. And I help other people as well, but really the gift, I believe, is to understand how to translate to make nutritional science easy and doable and not complicated, and really to get rid of all that noise that these population of wonderful thrivers are experiencing. And if I can gift that to them, it's wonderful.
You already doing that. You're doing an incredible job on national television, on your Instagram account, across all platforms. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here with us and answer people's question. You simplifying their nutrition. And this is exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to give our listeners actionable steps that they can take today, starting with their next meal plan. But before we get to that, I want to establish the connection. Why are we in Hashimoto's space talking about cancer and weight loss, weight gain? There is a huge connection, and there are so meta-analysis studies that establish correlation between Hashimoto's
Mhm.
and weight gain. Most of my clients with Hashimoto's struggle with weight loss. There is weight loss resistance. And studies show that people who are overweight or even obese have a higher risk of developing Hashimoto's
Yeah.
or aggravating the progression of Hashimoto's. So,
Yes.
whatever the weight gain or excess weight's causing, it's probably a lot of things, but it's probably a full body systemic inflammation.
Yes.
It can develop, it can be the switch to development of Hashimoto's. So we're going to talk about this, why weight management is so important.
Such a
Another
parallel.
Exactly, exactly. And another big point that you brought up, about cancer. Everyone has someone they know that has been touched by cancer. And
Yes.
there's so many systematic reviews and meta-analysis studies that show that people with Hashimoto's have a significantly higher risk of developing various type of cancer, including
Yes.
thyroid cancer,
Yes.
breast, lung cancer, digestive system cancer,
Yeah.
blood cancers, compared to individuals without Hashimoto's. So I
Yes.
love having you here because this is a very important topic that even I don't usually cover on this page because you have to establish the connection first. People don't think about it. So, what is the best way for someone to get started with preventative approaches to weight management and cancer risk,
Yeah.
especially if they feel
Yeah.
overwhelmed or
Yes.
stuck?
Yes. Yes. Because we generally, at least the patient population that I see, they come from an already good place. They're like, oh, I know how to eat. I eat pretty well. I'm stuck. And yes, they know a lot, but I think that where to start is such a great question.
Mhm.
We've already set the stage that excess body weight is correlated with increase of multiple diseases, 13 different cancers. It's really something that we can't just shove under the rug, right? So, but the real question is, what do I do? How do we bring people to the table? How do they think about getting to the table? And there's so much noise and there's so much access to information these days, right? So, what I do personally, and what I have found that works best, is I actually show my patients and my masterclass participants a graphic of a tree, a robust tree with lots of leaves, different colors. And I tell them that the number one mistake that I see that people make when you visualize that tree is they start at the leaves. And the leaves are basically supplements, superfood powders, different products that their neighbors recommended, and all kinds of things. And it gives them a sense of control, like they're being proactive and they're doing something. But it really becomes a graveyard of supplements. They have, and there's a lot of them, they just have no idea what to do with them. And I tell them, look, we will address the leaves, but without a tree and you just have leaves, there's no life here. So
Mhm.
we start from the roots. That's what I insist on starting. But Rachel, I have all these supplements. Hold on. We're starting at the roots right here. And the roots in my system is basically going to be level one. And
Mhm.
everyone starts at level one. And the level one is your AM breakfast routine. And if they don't eat breakfast, we still study level one. And I tell them, just like furniture, we can rearrange the room, but this transaction needs to happen during your day. And that transaction is basically focused on fiber quantity, diversity. Of course, protein plays into it, but let's face it, most people fall short on fiber way before they fall short on the protein. Even though we're obsessed with it, it's another podcast we can do. Spice synergy, because that is a habit that I've learned that is worth doing. It's already in your pantries. It's so powerful. We just need to establish a consistent pattern. So spice synergy and hydration with intention. What are you drinking? Because that's an opportunity to add so much good. So we lay that down as the AM anti-cancer weight management routine level one.
Mhm.
And of course, we can get into the weeds of all the details, but my patients have that on autopilot. Then we go to level two, your meals, how to set them up, simple strategy,
Mhm.
and then snacks and power tonics. And then we say, okay, we got a system down, right? We're doing it. It takes time to put this into play. People feel like it's so simple. I eat pretty healthy. I don't eat any carbs, yada, yada. Not interested, honestly.
Mhm.
Let's see with accountability, with a dietitian, that you really have this down, not perfection,
Mhm.
not perfection. You have this down. And then we say, it's time to autopilot. Let's cruise for a few weeks on autopilot. Can we take it? I know that you're a pilot, actually. Let's take it on a plane. Let's take it to a restaurant, to a function, to a hotel room. How are we doing? Again, not perfect, but you got to own it. So you get it on autopilot for a while, and then we have the leaves, of course. How fun is it to add a mushroom powder? And there's so much room for those fun supplemental products. We all need them in our lives, but we want to have them in a way that is meaningful, that you can be somebody gave me, and when I did research, people had they would we had to track all their supplements and when they took them, and every 3 months a full analysis. Boy, did I learn about people's habits. I had a little hospital desk, like I had to put their supplements on the desk and half were on the floor. And the pattern is, you start, you're excited about it, you're newly diagnosed, you are going to take in as much as you can from a variety of sources, but it dies off. They're not consistent. So what's the point in taking 20 supplements for, then you end up with,
And most people don't remember why they bought that specific
of
supplement.
course.
They don't remember what the NAC4 or NAD and
Yeah,
plus and all that stuff.
yeah.
And when I asked the question, why are you taking that? I don't know. I read it somewhere on a blog and
Or my
good
doctor
reviews.
told me, well, what's it for? So the advice that I'm giving, to sum it up, is to trust the simplicity of a system that you can learn, that's realistic for your lifestyle. You shouldn't have to overhaul your family's lifestyle. That's one thing I hear all the time. I want to do it, but it's not fair to them. It doesn't need to be like that. It should be so simple that they can see one of the key principles that you're integrating, maybe as a side dish,
Mhm.
and they don't notice. And you know what? You're adding more good to the table anyway. But it shouldn't be difficult to do. If it's difficult, you're in the wrong camp. You're with the wrong provider. You're not doing it right. It should be easy, because If something's complex, at least I've learned from myself, being a mother of 4 and just having a crazy busy lifestyle, if something's complicated, I'm running.
Mhm.
I'm not doing. We wanna do, and that's how we help people. We help them do.
I love how you simplify everything. I love your analogy about the trees and the leaves and the root, the trunk. I may use this analogy and I say, this is Rachel's Beller
Yeah,
analogy. It's beautiful because it shows the number one mistake women make when they're upgrading their health routine. And I think it's so important because this is the way you can shift towards something more
yeah,
sustainable. And you mentioned with supplements and meal plans or making simple changes in meals. Like I still do meal plans, 100% customized meal plans. And that came from me being a clinical dietitian here at the Vanderbilt. That's all we did. So
yes,
I'm still carrying that with me. And it's one of my most popular services. Some people hate it, most people like it, but you base the meal plan, whatever
yeah,
you're doing right now, and make one or two changes per week. And
yes.
just like you
Love
said, then
that.
get it on autopilot. Get it, so I always say, what we're doing right now, you don't ever have to take notes again or remember it in your to-do list. It will become a second nature, just like
Yes,
brushing teeth. I'm sure you told your kids, all four of them, many times when they were starting brushing their teeth, how important it is. And
yes,
then weeks or years maybe pass by, they don't even have to think about it. So
right.
that's the goal with nutrition. That's
Yes,
how we're simplifying. So
yes,
you're doing such a good job of blending science and simplicity in your work, and especially in your Spice Rack book.
yes.
What inspired you to mention? Do you tell us what inspired you to write it, and how does it support
Sure.
women who are navigating hormonal changes, even thyroid issues and cancer risks?
Yes. So the goal of the book, and this was a passion project of mine for many years, was to provide evidence-based nutrition. So the book, it's actually 2 books in one. So there's 10 chapters. Evidence-based nutrition made easy. The why. For example, what
Mhm,
are the most common questions that women will ask? I'd say maybe if they're navigating protein, right?
mhm,
Should I be vegan? Should I include some fish for the omega 3s? Should I eat some meat? How do I navigate this whole thing? I
mhm,
believe they deserve to know what are premium protein, second, third choice, and why.
mhm,
And when you have the why in a book that you can read, you can look at it over and over again. You can understand it.
mhm.
Rachel mentioned something like IGF-1 and all that. And it was simple when I read it, but let me go back into it. So the book has 10 whole, it's a very heavy book. It has 10 whole chapters about the why.
This
Okay.
should be our Bible, everybody's Bible.
I called it my Rachel's 10 nutrition commandments. It's just really simple. Like it hits and targets key things that you need to think about: weight management, alcohol, fiber, proteins, premium proteins, power up foods, the produce here, so that you have an understanding. Now, what we know as dietitians is the education and the knowledge base and the understanding that people have doesn't bring them to the table.
Mhm.
You've heard it from your patients all the time. I know what to do. I'm just not doing it. That's right. We're here to bring you to the table to actually get into action mode.
Yes, I always say knowledge is not the power, the application of that knowledge is.
Yeah, I wrote 4 best-selling books. It's great for information, right? But you need that. So I wanted to educate, and when you're educated, you feel empowered. Then I said, hey, let's teach people how to put this into action. I call that sprinkle on the goodness. It's
Mhm,
easy. And with spices, I learned because I saw an article from the American Institute for Cancer Research titled The Spices for Cancer Protection. And a
mhm,
light bulb went on and said, wait a minute, all these patients already have this in their pantries. It's easy to create a habit, it's not a trend, it's here to stay. But boy, can you benefit from this? Something so simple with such a huge yield, a return for our health, I was very excited about that. So each one of the recipes that had to be easy because if it's not easy, people aren't going to do it.
Right.
And the spices are making it easier. Think of a chef,
Mhm.
right? A master chef. If he has a good set of knives, it's easier to cut, it's easier to have to be more successful, you're more productive, you're doing, and you love that. And that's what I look at these spice synergy blends as something it's a one shot, making it and you appreciate that you're adding more good, you're sprinkling on the goodness with spice synergy. And spice synergy is a
Love it.
concept I had identified because research shows us that combining certain spices together enhances
Mhm.
the absorption of the so it's flavor, but it's also function that we want to think about when it
Mhm.
comes to how we combine spices. So parsley has quercetin that enhances the absorption of curcumin from
Mm.
turmeric, and pepper has the same thing. And cacao and turmeric have a synergistic effect with matcha. And it's just this whole thing that came about that, hey, how you pair spices matters, but we need to think about the flavor. And I really wanted my blends to not be too intense. You want to sprinkle on the goodness in the AM with your breakfast meals, and you don't want to get sick and tired of them. So they need to be every day AM routine.
Mhm.
And then Vegitude Power is something that people tell me like I drink this stuff because they add it onto everything. You name it. A protein, a grain. Moms make rice and they call it yellow rice and it's just so much power into your food, but it creates a habit and that's what I love.
Absolutely. And for everybody who's listening or watching, you don't have to remember what spices have what benefits and all that stuff. Rachel created a spice rack for you. You just get the whole set and just use it breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This is how simple. That's why we're here, right? We're simplifying
Simplify.
things. So that's point number one that I got from what you were saying. Point number two, that it sounds like it doesn't matter what diet you're following or what disease you have. It's easy to add spices to
Mhm.
every meal and they will
Yes.
benefit whatever your sign and symptoms is. Chances are that spice rack will have that potent ancient medicine in it, natural from flower, root,
Yeah.
or leaf already in it. Love.
It's in your power pantry. You already have it. You don't have to buy mine. You can make your own. People can play around and do whatever. But the habit, get into that because unlike these superfoods that we use and then we abandon and we move on to the next one, this is something that probably is going to be here to stay for you because it becomes a habit. Some people sprinkle a little salt, right, on their food. It's a habit for them, or pepper, or they squeeze lemon juice on a piece of fish as a habit. Spicing should be a habit like that, and it's just so simple. So I fell in love with it from that. I think in the oncology space you're very weary of just useless things that are sold to patients. It made me so
Yes, and it would be one thing if it was just useless. Some things, some supplements can actually hurt your healing journey.
yeah,
Too much iodine, too much iron, too much selenium, too
yeah,
much, too much, too much. Good tips. Now let's shift into gut health, something you and I both care deeply
yes.
about. In your masterclass that is specifically designed for losing excess weight, you
Mhm.
talk about gut squad. And I love that term. Can you walk us through what that means and how people can start nourishing their own gut squad daily and what your masterclass is all about?
Yes. So to support your gut microbiome, there are several things that we want to think about. But the easiest way to think about it is to think about fiber, actually. And there's some good and bad bacteria in our gut microbiome. And we want to prevent something called dysbiosis, which is an abnormal bacterial balance in the gut. And one of the easiest ways to do it is with diverse sources of fiber. We like to emphasize some prebiotic fibers specifically because they have direct access into the gut, that microbiome. and to nourish that good bacteria. Foods like asparagus, oats. I like recommending sprouted oats whenever
Mhm.
possible. So we're looking at those prebiotics, beta glucans, mushrooms, chia
Mm.
seeds. There are so many different fibers that and we want to be consistent with them. And
Consistent. Yes, that's the key word that everybody needs to write down. It's not what you do for a day or two. It's what you do consistently that matters.
most of the time. Yeah, it's not what you do sometimes, it's what you do most of the time to make a difference for your long-term health.
Mhm.
Very important message. So you want to think about that fiber diversity and these simple foods having direct access into your gut microbiome. Some people take a prebiotic supplement as well, but it's not going to mean as much until you already establish a pattern with wholesome real
Mhm.
foods because as we know, there's nutritional synergy between the different compounds within wholesome foods. And it's boring for people. It's so basic for them, but they're not getting the basics. And we point it
Mhm.
out and we encourage the basics and we establish a routine and then we supplement. Okay, so the gut microbiome is very important to nourish the good bacteria. Spices support our gut microbiome as well. UCLA did a great study with cinnamon, turmeric, ginger, black pepper, I believe. And it was exciting because it showed that spices also have an impact in promoting and increasing the good bacteria while simultaneously decreasing the bad bacteria and supporting our gut microbiome and a good environment. So that also has an impact, very important. And the goal there is to encourage the production of what's called short chain fatty acids.
Mhm.
And when you do
Butyrate.
that, guess what? Weight management becomes easier. Immunity gets enhanced. Really important for us. Hormonal balance, very supportive. So, look, we talked about something that's so basic,
Mhm.
but the yield, the return, and highlighting that these basic things consistently support our immunity, hormonal balance, weight management, all
Mhm.
these benefits.
Yes, establish the foundation first. Don't start with taking or Googling, will ice baths boost up your immune system? No, start with the foundation. Start with eating fiber or counting your fiber. I always say, who cares about counting calories? Or everybody's getting enough protein, maybe not. I don't know. Like you said, it's another topic for
Yes,
podcast,
yeah,
but we know that people are not getting enough fiber. So if whoever watching, listening, if the things that you take from this podcast, start counting your fiber
yeah,
intake.
yeah.
Start
3% of
there.
Americans get meet their fiber goal. That's they're getting way more protein than they ever need. 3%. That's a lot. If we had an audience with us right now of 2,000 people and we said, "Hey, everyone, ha- who knows that fiber or believes that fiber, meeting your fiber goal is important for your health?" Almost everyone's going to raise their hand. They
Mhm.
know it, but 3% are getting it. And
Mhm.
so we need to think about that. Can't ignore that, which means that people need help because it's a strategy.
Yeah.
And the supplements, you can pop 10 psyllium pills if you want to. That's not how this is going to work. I recommend fiber supplements, but that's not level and
Great.
it's non-negotiable because it has to come from the wholesome foods first because of the synergistic effect from the foods the wholesome foods. So that's important. So when we talk about fiber goals, because I'm sure everyone's okay, how much? Typically, in my space for breast cancer risk reduction, after reviewing multiple studies, the number that comes to that I'm recommending mostly is 35-ish grams per day, but not you can't jumpstart. And you and I agree on this based on what we talk about amongst ourselves is gradually
Mhm.
go for the kill all at once because you're going to feel the negative effects. Maybe your body won't adapt to it and you'll have some negative experience and then you're not going to go back to it. And it's something that's so important. It's so important to
Important.
get to your fiber total and get it on autopilot and diversify it. It's a game changer when it comes to your long term health on multiple fronts. It's
Mhm.
that important. So 30 to 35 grams gradually. I personally will add that into that anti-cancer AM routine,
Mm.
and I only focus on that for a while. So now I have them getting used to a certain amount, so their body will start to say, "Okay, I think I've reached 10 to 15 grams before noon. My body has settled into this routine. I'm ready for the next step." It's
I
important.
love it. I love it. Simple foundational steps.
Yeah.
Now, Rachel, we scratched the surface of this topic, but I know you have to run. But the last thing I want to do, and I didn't tell you that, this is a surprise, I want to do like a rapid fire questions that it's either yes or no answer. Oh, yes, I love it. Nothing crazy, nothing controversial. Maybe there is one. Number one question: what's your favorite spice you literally cannot live without?
Ah, I'd say Ceylon cinnamon, and you said 1, okay.
Okay.
Ceylon cinnamon.
I love it. I love it because
Or
it's very important. Yes, because it's so versatile. But we're going to leave it at that. First thing you do when you wake up in the morning, first thing you do.
so the first thing that I do as far as, like, nutrition is concerned is I like to drink a power tonic. I will drink water that's been infused either with spice or with herbs or
Mhm.
with mint, even just mint,
Right.
and I'll drink that even before an organic coffee that I have right here, or even a matcha that's non-negotiable, that I definitely will drink. Hydration is so important first thing. It just gives me that burst of energy first thing in the morning after I brush my teeth.
I'm going to take notes. I loved all these ideas. The mint infused water. Love it.
But it's great because you know that what you drink is a vehicle to add more good. Why not an
Mhm.
opportunity? First thing, think about the psychological impact that that has. You woke up and, hey, I added more good. And I'm doing it because I feel good. It does have an impact for me,
Mm.
but that's a great thing. And I
You,
want people to
yeah.
feel that. Even when they travel, I have a system for them so that they wake up and their first transaction is a positive one.
Yes, you setting yourself up for success.
Yes,
Love it.
yes,
Love
yes,
those hacks.
yes.
What's one book that changed your life, nutrition related or not?
The Breast Cancer Prevention Diet by Bob Arnott. I think that
Oh
was one
wow.
of them that changed. And I'm mentioning it as a professional book because I really enjoy those type of books.
And I'm going to put that book in our podcast description notes if somebody's interested. If
It's an
somebody wants
older
to.
book, but it's and things that it's just the way things are explained. I really enjoyed that. There's another book that comes to mind, but I can't remember it. But it was so interesting for me to learn about weight management and breast cancer risk reduction.
My book for me was You're the Placebo.
It's great.
What is it? Joe Dispenser, whatever his name
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
Amazing. But just a little side note. Okay, the last question before we let you go. What's one health trend you wish would disappear forever?
It's just like drinking shots of this of coconut oil and putting them around your gums and swallowing coconut oil. I had enough of it, and it keeps resurfacing. I remember, like, when Sheryl Crow was on tour and a lot of the team members were like, "Oh, coconut oil is so helpful," and they're drinking it, and it's been around. It's been around, and, I think that finally the American Heart Association, we're
Mm.
realizing, like, too much of a trend that just needs to,
To go away.
yeah,
It's
if
useless. I
you wanna
mean,
add a little bit of coconut oil in a recipe for the flavor effect or something like that, but it's not such a strong healing effect like they're touting it to be.
right. Especially if you don't have the foundations that we touched on,
Exactly.
that we talked about.
Exactly.
Rachel, thank you so much again for your time. I cannot thank you enough.
Do it again.
And I'm sure, yes, please, let's do it again. Every topic that we touched on, we can talk for hours and we can dedicate each podcast episode for it. So I'm
Yeah.
sure our listeners would love for us to get together again. And for me, this has been an honor. And I told you personally, I look up to you.
Oh,
You're like, this is what I want to be when I grow up. So thank you.
I
Thank
love
you
it.
for being here, and we're not going to hold you any longer. Thank you so much.
Pleasure always. Good to be here.